My name is Michael Lattanzio. I am an adjunct professor at Fisher College. I have a variety of experience working in customer experience operations within startup companies. Today, I'm going to be talking about how we use innovation to essentially influence new outputs, new companies, new products, new ideas. So one of the things that we look at is music, language, food. We all have, when we assess these things, each one has a base grammar. Music, we have notes, we have genre, the stories we tell. If we were to break down language, we have letters, which form words, which form sentences and new stories. And what we really are looking at here is the power that gives people an infinite combination to create these new stories, to create these new songs, to create these new recipes and foods. This has a heavy impact on how innovation can influence and spread through food, through music, through stories. And what we're talking about when we talk about variation is the outputs. So when we think about innovation and when we talk about it as a subject, one of the first things we think about is ideas. And ideas are outputs. What we're going to be focusing on today is the method itself. It is important to distinguish when we talk about innovation, what are the outputs of an innovation method and what is the method itself. We now have a new technological capability with AI to rapidly produce these methods. It used to take years to formalize a method. You think of all the methods and frameworks that are out there, from design thinking to lean processes to newer frameworks like exaption and effectuation. And now that we have this capability, what we've seen and what we're looking at is a lot of focus on the outputs themselves. It's the innovation method and the people that implement that influences the output. So let's take an example here. The first thing we have to do with each innovation method that we use or work with is break it down. And this is one of the new capabilities that we have. So just to give a little background, in the entrepreneurs that I've worked with in the businesses that they've created, they're using innovation methods, whether they're doing it formally or informally. An entrepreneur who identifies a problem, who exploits an opportunity, is practicing and implementing an innovation method in the back of their mind. Problem framing, identifying that problem, that is part of a method. When we look at things like lean processes or design thinking framework, that is more of a formalized model. But what we want to try to do, the thing that we now have the capability to do in terms of technology, simplicity, and speed, is break down innovation methods. So if we look at how we can structure it, let's say we wanted to try to break down a lean innovation method. We could look at it in terms of traits. What are traits of the lean innovation process? It's iterative, it's hypothesis-driven, it emphasizes minimalism in terms of cost, in terms of speed. When we look at the logics in terms of how it works, it's build, measure, learn. And that is common in many frameworks. When we look at the drivers, we're looking at what pushes it, what pulls it in terms of its popularization as a framework. And when we look at the enablers, how do we see what is needed in order for this innovation method to operate? So when we look at this, what we're doing is starting to break down a process of thinking, a method of innovation. And when we do that, one of the things that we can take and we can use an operator like inversion here, let's look at how things would look if we flipped lean innovation processes, if we used inversion to change that method. We could call this the owned moment innovation method, and I'll show the breakdown of how it works in just a second. But the owned moment innovation method identifies the hidden behavioral rituals of your most loyal customers and redesigns the entire business around owning that specific moment so completely that no competitor can replicate it. So what did we do? We applied inversion to every part of the method itself. So we took lean innovation process, we broke it down into its core components, and we inverted each part. And from that, we create a new method. In creating that new method, we then reassemble it into a new method. So the owned moment innovation method, and the name can change from time to time, we can now use that method to innovate on a problem, to apply towards a business model, to apply towards a specific kind of problem. So let's take a problem in case here. Let's apply, let's say 50% of restaurants fail within 5 years. We could use that lean innovation method to say, in terms of an output, a lunch special tested and iterated 3 times in 60 days. This is an output in terms of a strategy of the lean innovation process itself. It's that at work. If we were to take our new owned method, we could say a slow morning experience so specifically designed around solitude that remote workers make it their permanent weekday office. So what we're doing is applying 2 new methods of thinking to solve a particular problem. And you can get creative with this. It starts with the example of maybe changing 1 or 2 parts of an innovation method. But what is so valuable about this is you can start to pull in different kinds of parts into these models. For example, combinatorial parts. You can sub out, break apart, different kinds of traits, different kinds of logics. And when you do this, the outputs, the new ideas that are going to be generated will be potentially something novel. Now, everything that comes out that's novel isn't necessarily good or isn't necessarily viable for a market. But what this does is essentially opens up an opportunity for you to generate new outputs, to evaluate those outputs, and explore novelty. So much like music, food, language, if we can build continuously, expand our innovation grammar, like we do with music, like we do with food, like we do with language, we can influence novelty. Thank you.